Perry accuser Derek Dixon sits down in a TV interview for the first time, sharing allegations of workplace assault and harassment. User claims that Tyler Perry denies, but Dixon says he's speaking out now to try to stop a billionaire who won't stop the...
What if I told you that one of Hollywood's most beloved billionaires has vanished, selling off his empire in silence, moving billions overseas, and disappearing into Europe just as shocking accusations hit the headlines? This isn't just a scandal. It's a mystery that could change Hollywood forever. Tyler Perry, celebrated creator of heartfelt dramas and crowd-pleasing comedies, a billionaire admired by audiences across the globe, has quietly slipped beyond America's borders. His exit wasn't announced, no farewell tour or press statement. One day, the world expected him to stand center stage, greet fans, run interviews, and keep the vast machinery of Tyler Perry Studios moving. The next, he was simply gone. And this disappearance isn't the kind of gone that signals a holiday retreat or a brief pause from the spotlight. Perry hasn't holed up in a lavish Atlanta estate or pressed pause on public appearances to recharge his creative energy. No, this is something altogether stranger, more deliberate. According to flight data, customs entries, and scattered sightings, Perry's trail leads overseas. Not just anywhere in Europe, either whispers point to the likes of Switzerland or France. Places of quiet luxury where billionaires vanish into the fog of the Alps, or retreat into the privacy of countryside chateaus. As the storm back home begins to brew, for a man who built his empire in the open, sitting for interviews, staging public appearances, writing himself into the heart of his productions, Perry's silence is deafening. His brand has always been about accessibility, relatability, the idea that audiences could see themselves in his stories, his struggles, his triumphs. For years, he was proof of the American dream in motion, born into hardship, rising through rejection, and finally conquering Hollywood on his own terms. To vanish without explanation, without even a whisper of acknowledgement, is so wildly out of character that speculation has become inevitable. In Hollywood, a sudden disappearance is rarely just an accident of scheduling. It becomes a vacuum, one that draws in rumor, theory, and paranoia. Industry insiders trade notes like detectives piecing together a case. Which flights match his timeline? Who was spotted meeting with him in Monaco? Why are his properties suddenly shifting hands with quiet precision? For those who've worked in the orbit of celebrity, they know silence is rarely about peace, it's about control. Control is something Perry has always understood. He didn't just direct films, he directed his empire. Every decision routed through his instincts and vision. His success was built on keeping the reins tight, financing projects himself, cutting out middlemen, ensuring he alone answered for his creations. But now, as the lights dim on his empire, that instinct for control seems to have extended into something else, controlling his exit, shaping his disappearance like a script. Consider the choice of Europe as a hiding ground. Switzerland, with its reputation for discretion, isn't just about picturesque mountains and chocolate box villages, the banking capital of secrecy. Billionaires don't just visit Switzerland, they store their futures there. France, too, offers a particular kind of sanctuary. A chateau in Provence, or a penthouse in Paris, offers the perfect stage for a man trying to disappear without ever really looking like he's disappeared. Both countries provide more than luxury. They provide distance, psychological, legal, and reputational. And Perry's absence raises questions far bigger than where he is. It forces us to ask why. Why would one of the most powerful men in Hollywood, a man who fought for decades to build an empire no one thought possible, suddenly walk away without ceremony? Why would he choose silence, knowing that silence feeds suspicion, and suspicion is far harder to silence than rumor? Theories, of course, abound. Some suggest Perry is shielding himself from legal battles, insulating his fortune from lawsuits that could bleed him dry. Others argue he's attempting to protect his legacy not by defending it in court or in public, but by removing himself entirely from the American conversation. Still others whisper that this isn't his choice at all, that forces larger than him, rival power brokers in Hollywood or powerful enemies he's made along the way, have orchestrated his exile. The evidence, while fragmentary, paints a portrait of premeditation. Private jets rerouted at the last minute, customs logs that show arrivals and departures inconsistent with public appearances, staff at luxury resorts describing a mysterious VIP guest who books under false names, vanishes for days, then reappears without entourage or explanation. At first, these stories sound like urban legend, the kind of gossip that fuels late-night industry dinners. But taken together, they sketch out something far stranger, a deliberate act of erasure. For fans, the effect has been jarring. Perry's audience has long viewed him as more than just a filmmaker. To many, he was a cultural architect, a man who told stories Hollywood ignored, who gave a voice to families, communities, and struggles often overlooked. His absence feels personal. On social media, fans ask, where is he? Why hasn't he spoken? Some defend him fiercely, urging patience. Others feel betrayed, as though the man who taught them resilience has abandoned his own stage when it mattered most. The studios feel it too. Tyler Perry Studios wasn't just a workplace. It was an engine for Atlanta, a hub of creativity and jobs. His productions weren't occasional, they were relentless. A Perry project always seems to be filming, releasing, or promoting. To have that engine suddenly grind to a halt has left crews scrambling. Contracts in limbo, productions shelved. Meanwhile, the silence grows heavier. With every passing day, Perry's absence becomes its own form of presence. His name dominates not because of what he is saying or doing, but because of what he is not. Silence becomes a headline. Silence becomes a weapon. And perhaps, for Perry, silence is the most powerful script of all. The symbolism of his rumored European hideouts only deepens the mystery. Switzerland, with its fortified banks and discreet chalets, has long been the destination for those who need not just a retreat, but a shield. It's a country where discretion is culture, where privacy isn't just respected, it's institutionalized. France, meanwhile, has always been the refuge of the famous. Writers, artists, and celebrities alike have disappeared into its countrysides when scandal or exhaustion threatened to undo them. For Perry, these places aren't just escapes, they're statements. They're symbols of a man who, for the first time, has stepped out of the story he built hand into one the world is struggling to interpret. The irony is stark. Perry built his career on visibility, on connection, on the promise that his characters reflected the audience and the audience reflected him. Yet in his greatest act of control, he has chosen invisibility. He has left behind only breadcrumbs, flight logs, rumors, sightings, without proof, knowing that in absence, myth grows faster than truth. And maybe that's the point. Maybe Perry, master storyteller, is now writing his boldest story yet, not on a screen, not on a stage, but in the real world. A story where the protagonist disappears at the height of his power, leaving everyone else to debate the ending. Is he a fugitive, a strategist, a victim? Or is he simply the one man clever enough to walk off stage before the curtain fell on him? For now, no one knows. And that's precisely why his disappearance has captivated the world. Tyler Perry is gone. Not vacation gone, not taking a break gone. Just gone. And the silence he leaves behind might be louder than any film he ever made.
It's about the first time you ever met Tyler Perry.
Yeah, I met him at his studio opening party in 2019. I was working for an events company, and we met, and he said to me, are you an actor? And I said, well, not right now. I'm working on it, but not right now. And he said, yeah, you are. We need to talk. You should get my number in.
This isn't just a case of a celebrity ducking the spotlight to avoid tough questions. What we're witnessing is something far more deliberate, a carefully engineered exit, the kind of billionaire disappearing act that rattles federal investigators and ties legal teams into knots. In the months leading up to his disappearance, Perry began quietly dismantling the life he had built in America. He didn't liquidate in a frenzy or stage flashy auctions. Instead, piece by piece, his properties slipped onto the market, towering Atlanta estates, sprawling California retreats, even sleek apartments in Manhattan. No open houses, no glossy magazine spreads. Every sale moved like a secret handshake, brokered through shell companies with post office boxes in places like Luxembourg and the British Virgin Islands. At the same time, financial advisors were seen slipping out of his studio offices long after dark, dodging cameras and refusing to answer questions. And while the public remained unaware, money was already on the move. Bankers in Atlanta began noticing a pattern: regular withdrawals in the millions, carefully broken into amounts just under mandatory reporting thresholds, spread across multiple institutions. Inside the studio, whispers grew louder. Perry had stopped showing up to meetings. Assistants repeated the same vague line: he's traveling, but nobody knew where. Even close friends, the kind of people who'd swear they understood him best, suddenly couldn't reach him. One former assistant revealed, relationships that once defined his inner circle were cut off without a word. Those who helped him build his empire found themselves abruptly and permanently shut out.
Decide to come forward with your story?
I wanted to speak out and not stay silent
This wasn't
about
a
it.
frantic escape. It was a strategy session played out on a global chessboard, with Perry advancing his pieces one calculated move at a time. Every step carried the fingerprints of foresight, contracts, shifting ownership of cars, companies, even equipment from his studios. Lawyers clocking late nights, then jetting off midweek to Zurich or Luxembourg with briefcases full of paperwork. We've seen this play before in other industries, the ultra-wealthy hiding wealth behind corporate veils and offshore accounts, erecting financial fortresses so impenetrable that even government watchdogs struggle to pry them open. Which raises the obvious question: if Perry truly had nothing to conceal, as his attorneys insist, why build such a labyrinth of shell companies, midnight transfers, and Swiss bank accounts? Was this an effort to safeguard his empire or to bury secrets beyond anyone's reach? The timing only made things murky. While the public was still digesting the whirlwind of accusations, the explosive lawsuit, Derek Dixon's interviews, and the leaked text messages that set everything ablaze, Perry's legal team blanketed the airwaves. They labeled it a shakedown, a hoax, anything but what it appeared to be. Yet insiders quietly noted that Perry had begun reshaping his empire. Long before the scandal ever reached headlines, bank records hint at the truth. Accounts in Luxembourg, established as early as 2022. Millions routed through faceless companies with no shows, no films, no products, just ledgers and wire transfers. The Swiss bankers, as expected, refused comment. But one thing is clear: nobody goes to those lengths merely to dodge a Georgia tax bill.
For money to buy your silence?
No, I think I was looking for accountability on to what he did. I think what he did was wrong, and it needed to be something that would deter him from doing this.
A growing camp of Hollywood insiders believes Perry isn't just fleeing scandal, he may be executing a long-planned finale. For years, his empire has drawn fire: labor disputes with writers, accusations of exploiting talent, whispers of a system that ran on loyalty and silence. Then came Derek Dixon's lawsuit, and suddenly the narrative began to fracture. According to filings and interviews, Dixon describes a troubling progression. It began with casual texts, then veered into pressure, then he alleges into physical misconduct. He claims his livelihood hinged on pleasing Perry, and when he resisted, the consequences played out on screen. His character in the Oval didn't fade quietly. He was gunned down in a blaze of bullets. A storyline choice that Dixon and others read as more than drama warning shot aimed at anyone who dared to push back. He wanted us to know he held our futures in his hands, Dixon said, arguing that his firing wasn't just a personal attack, but a demonstration of power. The leaked text messages, now circulating across social media, have only fueled the storm. What's it going to take for you to have guiltless fun? Have you found that in therapy yet? One read. Another: I hope you let someone hold and make love to you. Perry's attorneys dismissed them as out-of-context fabrications, calling the lawsuit a scam. But taken at face value, they sound less like professional exchanges and more like the words of a man blurring boundaries. For Dixon, the case goes beyond harassment. His lawsuit paints a picture of a system where compliance is rewarded, dissent is punished, and careers can be erased with a few strokes of a script. In an industry where assistants whisper warnings in hallways and agents trade survival strategies, it's the kind of story that sticks and spreads.
We're over at his house. We're having some drinks in his guest house, and it was late at night, and he has a guest quarters, and said that you can sleep there instead of not driving. And his house is far from Atlanta and where I was living, and I got into bed, and then I noticed that he climbed into bed with me as well and started rubbing my leg. And I jumped up at it.
What if this isn't just about one scandal, one lawsuit, or one mogul's fall from grace? More and more, the whispers suggest Perry didn't simply run, he was pushed. As allegations mounted, so did enemies. Talk of a Hollywood blacklist has begun to circulate, with fingers pointed at the power brokers who sit on the boards of every major studio. Perry's rise, built on independence and total creative control, made him an outsider. And when outsiders grow too rich, too powerful, the knives often come out. Even former collaborators have started distancing themselves. Alfonso Ribeiro, when asked if he'd work with Perry again, offered a chilly response: I don't need or ever want that man to do anything for me. A sharp, dismissive statement, just ambiguous enough to fuel endless speculation. Others remain silent. But in Hollywood, silence often speaks louder than denial. Producers, colleagues, Even friends have drifted away. The sound of footsteps leaving can be deafening. Meanwhile, rumors swirl of a new documentary project, Surviving Tyler Perry, that promises to pull back the curtain on years of alleged misconduct and exploitation. The filmmakers claim they have a growing list of voices ready to speak out. Opportunism, maybe, or perhaps the industry is finally cracking open a story it's kept sealed for years. All the while, Perry's fortune keeps moving offshore. Reports put his wealth at $1.4 billion before the scandal broke. And the pattern is hard to ignore. Shift the money, sell the assets, sever the ties, then vanish. Some speculate he's waiting for the storm to pass before re-emerging with a new identity, a new empire, or, true to form, a film about a misunderstood mogul betrayed by the very system he once conquered. But this time, the drama isn't scripted, the villains are real, the betrayals are cutting, and the audience is global. Perry's story, once framed as a Hollywood success, is unraveling in real time. His accusers are louder than ever. Derek Dixon's lawsuit, once the headline now, feels like only the opening act. His claims of harassment, retaliation, and a system built to reward silence have been echoed by a rising chorus of actors, assistants, and writers who say they too were used, discarded, or silenced. Everyone deserves to go to work and do their job without their boss trying to have their way with them. Dixon said words that resonate across an industry built on ambition and imbalance. And while Hollywood has a history of forgetting its scandals once the cameras stop rolling, this time feels different. Insiders are already speaking with lawyers, weighing their options, and preparing to step forward. The avalanche hasn't hit yet, but the cracks are showing. The question isn't whether more stories will come but who will be next. Is this the moment one of Hollywood's most carefully curated empires collapses under its own weight? Or just another storm that the industry, with its short memory and deep pockets, will eventually bury?
Of a toll, would you say that this is all taken on you?
I was extremely anxious. The calls got to a point where the calls and texts were almost every day. Just this constant state of like, if I don't answer, I will lose my job.
It's the silence from Tyler Perry's once loyal inner circle that speaks volumes. Oprah Winfrey, who once embraced him as family, hasn't uttered a word. No statement of support, no distancing, just a carefully calculated no comment. Sources inside OWN suggest a crisis team is combing through years of emails, projects, and receipts, ensuring her legacy remains untangled from Perry's unraveling empire. It's a far cry from their days on red carpets, where they hugged for cameras and traded lines about redemption and second chances. Others have been far less discreet. Alfonso Ribeiro stunned fans when he declared he'd never work with Perry again. The bluntness of his words, "I don't need or ever want that man to do anything for me," landed like a cold slap. Was it just professional friction, or a sign of deeper rot behind the curtain? Social media sleuths have dissected every past interview, every deleted post, searching for hidden truths. If even Perry's safe bets are running for cover, it raises the question, what skeletons are still locked in the vault? The retreat extends further. Collaborators are quietly erasing Instagram photos, pruning LinkedIn connections, and ducking calls. One Los Angeles producer, speaking off-record, warned, "This isn't just about one lawsuit. There are more stories coming in. Some will make this look like the pre-game show." Legal teams in Atlanta and Beverly Hills are reportedly bracing for a flood of claims, while inside Perry's company, longtime employees are boxing up their desks, uncertain whether their careers will survive the fallout. Meanwhile, Hollywood's gatekeepers are playing chicken. Netflix has quietly buried promotion for Perry's newest project, praying the storm passes before release day. Bet once his most reliable Ella has gone radio silent. Contracts are rumored to be shredded behind closed doors. In a town where loyalty is fleeting, Perry's account balance seems to have hit zero, and yet, across Europe, the mogul appears to be writing his own manual for scandal survival. There are whispered sightings, a private jet in nice A shadow, slipping through a St. Moritz hotel lobby, a yacht off Monaco so massive it eclipsed the sun. Someone swears they saw him wandering near a castle in Salzburg. But no photos ever surface Sony grainy, long-distance glimpses. It's a lifestyle built on invisibility, where luxury is just camouflage for evasion. Money buys him space, time, and maybe even legal insulation. What it cannot buy back is trust. The irony isn't lost on Hollywood, the man who built his empire by giving underdogs. A stage has become the emblem of how wealth can shield the powerful, even as accusations multiply. If he never returns to American soil, Perry will still wake up to lakeside mornings and spa breakfasts, comforted by the knowledge his accusers can't touch him without an international pursuit. But exile carries its own curse. Running means never standing still, and as history proves, no matter how far or fast you move, the story always finds you.
After that, he called several times and I ended up getting afraid of what was going on the other side. So I picked up, and that's when he said, he was sorry for what happened. He doesn't know why he did that, and that maybe he was self-sabotaging or something. And in the same call, he said, and don't worry.
What's most unsettling is the precedent this could set. If Tyler Perry walks away untouched, what's to stop the next billionaire producer, philanthropist, or Hollywood heavyweight from vanishing into the Alps the moment scandal knocks on their door? For years, Perry was held up as a role model. Now, too many, he's a case study in a scap reputation, managed not with apologies, but with distance. He's living like a king while the rest of us pick up the pieces, said one former colleague who claims she lost her job when Perry's studio went dark. We thought he cared about us. Turns out, we were just collateral damage. Here's where things stand. Perry's assets continue to shift. His lawyers are maneuvering like chess grandmasters, and his friends are ducking into the shadows. Meanwhile, the story refuses to disappear. Documentaries are in production. Whistleblowers are offering up receipts, emails, diary entries. Some voices whisper redemption. Others demand reckoning. The only consensus: Hollywood won't look the same once the dust settles. Allegations keep surfacing of inappropriate comments, of blurred boundaries, of moments that left colleagues shaken. One former associate recalled, "He asked me to turn around so he could look at me, then just walked out. It was strange. People can try to shoot their shot, but if someone makes it clear they're not interested, that's where it should end." Accounts like these, scattered but consistent, are shaping the narrative. Not just a scandal, but a system exposed. So, what happens now? Will Tyler Perry return to face the scrutiny? Or has he rewritten the celebrity playbook, proving that the rich can run, hide, and let the storm rage without them? Is this the story of a visionary undone by betrayal, or of a man finally cornered by a game he thought he controlled? One thing is certain: the curtain hasn't fallen yet. And in Hollywood, when the lights go dark, that's often when the truth finally takes center stage.